She stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. Where had Maya gone? The girl who once painted until sunrise, who laughed too loudly at coffee shops, who wore mismatched socks because life was too short to care. That girl had vanished, replaced by someone who asked permission to breathe. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own life, stay until the end of this story, because Maya's journey might just save you from making the same mistake. Before we begin, if stories about real transformation move you, hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel is all about finding yourself again. Maya met Ryan on a Tuesday that felt like fate. He walked into the art supply store where she worked, looking lost among the oil paints and canvas rolls. She helped him pick colors for his sister's birthday gift, and he asked for her number before leaving. 3 months later, she couldn't remember what life felt like before him. He was charming, successful, and he chose her. Out of everyone, he chose her. The changes started small. So small she didn't notice them dissolving her identity like sugar in hot tea. Ryan mentioned he preferred women with longer hair, so she canceled her appointment for the pixie cut she'd been dreaming about. He said her artist friends were too pretentious, too flaky, so she started declining their invitations. He worried when she stayed late at the studio, so she began leaving early, her canvases half finished, her creativity half expressed. Each compromise felt reasonable in isolation. That's how losing yourself works. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 tiny surrenders. Her best friend Sarah noticed first. They met for lunch on a Saturday, the first time in 2 months. Sarah looked at Maya, really looked at her, and asked the question that pierced through everything. Why are you wearing beige? Maya had always been an explosion of color, wearing purple with orange, red with pink, combinations that shouldn't work, but somehow did on her. Now she sat across from Sarah in a beige sweater, beige pants, looking like she was trying to disappear into the furniture. Maya laughed it off, said she was growing up, being more mature. But Sarah didn't laugh back. She leaned forward and said something Maya would replay in her mind for weeks afterward. Love shouldn't make you smaller, Maya. It should make you more yourself, not less. The words settled in Maya's chest like stones, heavy and undeniable. She went home that day and looked through her phone, scrolling back through months of photos. In the recent ones, she was always slightly behind Ryan, slightly out of frame, her smile polite rather than genuine. She looked like a shadow of someone, not someone with her own light. That night, Ryan wanted to watch an action movie. Maya hated action movies, the loud explosions and predictable plots, but she said sure, like she always did. Halfway through, he asked what she wanted for dinner. She started to say sushi, her favorite, but caught herself and said whatever you want. He looked at her, frustrated for the first time. Can you just make a decision, Maya? You never have an opinion anymore. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had trained herself so thoroughly to defer to him that now he was annoyed by the very behavior he'd cultivated. The breaking point came on her birthday. Ryan planned everything, a fancy dinner at a steakhouse downtown. Maya was vegetarian, had been for 5 years, something he knew but seemed to have forgotten or ignored. She sat there looking at the menu, trying to find something, anything she could eat beyond a side salad. When the waiter came, Ryan ordered for both of them without asking. He got her the salmon, said she needed to be less rigid about her dietary restrictions. She said nothing, just nodded. Felt something crack inside her chest. She excused herself to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall. The tears came fast and hot, years of swallowed words and buried desires pouring out. She pulled out her phone and saw messages from Sarah, from her art friends, wishing her happy birthday, asking when they'd see her again. And she realized with devastating clarity that she had been so busy being the woman Ryan wanted that she'd stopped being Maya entirely. She had ghosted her own life. When she returned to the table, Ryan was on his phone, barely noticing she'd been crying. She sat down, looked at the salmon on her plate, and something shifted. She thought about her mother, who had lived her entire life in service of Maya's father, who had died without ever pursuing her dream of opening a bookstore. She thought about the painting she'd started 6 months ago, still sitting in her studio waiting for her to come back to it. She thought about the version of herself that laughed too loud and wore clashing colors and stayed up until sunrise creating something beautiful. Maya picked up her purse. Ryan looked up, confused. "Where are you going?" She stood, her voice steadier than she expected. "I'm going home, Ryan. We're done." The shock on his face was almost comical. "What? Why? You can't just leave." She smiled, sad but certain. "I've been leaving for months, Ryan. I've been leaving myself behind piece by piece, trying to fit into the shape you wanted. But I'm done shrinking. I'm done asking permission to exist." He tried to argue, said she was being dramatic, that he loved her. But Maya realized his love was conditional, dependent on her being convenient, agreeable, small. Real love doesn't require you to erase yourself. Real love sees you, all of you, the messy and loud and colorful parts, and says, "Yes, that, I love that." Ryan's love required an edited version of Maya, and she was tired of performing. She walked out of that restaurant into the cool night air, and for the first time in a year, she felt like she could breathe fully. The next morning, she woke up alone in her apartment, and instead of feeling lonely, she felt possibility. She made herself a huge vegetarian breakfast, put on a yellow dress with red flowers, and went to her studio. The unfinished painting waited for her like an old friend. She picked up her brush and started painting, music loud, windows open, not caring what anyone thought. Sarah showed up an hour later, took one look at Maya covered in paint and grinning, and burst into tears. "You're back," she said. "I'm back," Maya confirmed. They spent the whole day in that studio, talking, laughing, Maya reconnecting with the parts of herself she'd abandoned. It wasn't easy. Some days she missed Ryan, or rather, she missed the idea of being chosen, being wanted. But she was learning that being wanted isn't worth losing yourself for. Weeks turned into months. Maya started showing her art again, bold, abstract pieces that burst with color and emotion. She cut her hair into that pixie cut, and it felt like shedding weight she'd been carrying. She went on dates occasionally, but she was different now. She didn't mold herself to what she thought men wanted. She showed up as Maya, full and complete, and if someone didn't like it, that was information, not rejection. One evening, while setting up for a gallery show, a man approached her artwork. He studied the largest painting, an explosion of reds and golds that Maya had titled Reclamation. He turned to her and said, "This is extraordinary. You can feel the freedom in it." Maya smiled. "Thank you. It's about finding yourself again after losing yourself for someone else." He nodded thoughtfully. "I think a lot of people need to see this." "I'm Lucas, by the way." They talked for an hour about art, about identity, about the courage it takes to choose yourself. When he asked for her number, Maya gave it, but this time felt different. She wasn't looking for completion in him. She was already complete. As Maya locked up the gallery that night, she thought about how she'd almost lost herself completely in the name of love. She thought about all the people out there right now, shrinking themselves, silencing their voices, hiding their light, believing that's what love requires. And she wanted to tell them what she'd learned, that the right person will never ask you to be less, that love should feel like expansion, not contraction, that you can love someone deeply and still love yourself more, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Maya walked home under the stars, wearing her mismatched socks, humming off key, taking up space. She was messy and loud and colorful and fully, finally, completely herself. And she had never felt more worthy of love, not because someone else chose her, but because she chose herself. That's the lesson. That's the truth that will set you free. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot love from an empty self. Fill yourself first. Be yourself first. The right love will find you there, in your fullness, not in your smallness. If Maya's story touched your heart, if you've ever lost yourself or you're finding your way back, leave a comment below. Share your story. You're not alone in this. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories about finding courage, choosing yourself, and building a life that feels like yours. Because you deserve to take up space. You deserve to be seen. You deserve love that doesn't require you to disappear. Remember that always.